Man, you already know what it is. Jay Williams, let's live life, and we're back. Got a crazy video for y'all today. I had to dig in the vaults for this one, man. And the whole idea came from a question from one of the viewers on a live I did the other night. If you ain't watched the lives, make sure you go check out the lives. It helps us to get to know each other on a more personal level and just build outside of, just prison. But somebody asked me, had I dealt with any time jackers? If y'all don't know what a time jacker is, let me break it down. You're at the very end of your sentence. You're ready to go home. Somebody comes along and tries to mess it up so you can't leave. It's not a common thing. That's more of a made-for-TV, movie thing. You hear about it a lot in prison, but that's more or less the convict's paranoia when it comes to the next man. Like, you've got it in your head, oh my God, they're going to let me go. And what he's going to do is going to do something to trick me up, and I'm not going to be able to get out of here. It has happened, but it's not something that I've got a whole lot to talk about on the situation because I haven't seen a whole lot of it. What I have seen a lot of is guys receiving more time while locked up, and then a lot of times for things they didn't do. I have seen guys rob guys, run in the cells, pull the knives on them, run them soups, run them chips, let me get them sodas. And that guy go tell, and them guys that just came in that cell got armed robbery charges and would get found guilty and get sentenced to a whole bunch more time. But in digging through the vaults, going through the crates, going through my mental Rolodex, I came across a bunch of different situations throughout my lifetime of doing time. Some way back in the day when I was younger, some through the jail, some through prison stints, of guys that would go on to be found guilty a second time, this time while incarcerated, sentenced to a bunch more time for things they hadn't done. Because they had made somebody mad, because they played too much, wrong place, wrong time. And that would be what kept them in prison way past their release date. Years and years and years. Some of these men are still currently locked up behind situations just like that. So it goes without saying, today's video is 100% going to be a banger. Stay tuned. You know how to see it, you know how to live it, so let's relive it. Anytime you hear somebody say the word street court, it's a bad day. Street court means you are going in front of a judge, a real judge. This ain't a penitentiary judge. This ain't nobody that works for the prison. This is a judge that if you as a civilian got in trouble, you go in front of, when you have to leave the prison or leave the jail in handcuffs and go back in front of the judge, go to street court for something you've done while incarcerated, it's a bad day. That means you're now facing new charges. That means that whatever time you had is about to change. You're possibly about to catch more time. I've heard, man, they send dude to street court, or he caught street charges 1,000,001 times. I've seen pretty much every scenario you could think of, everything from homicide to sexual assaults, you name it. I've seen guys go back to street court. The first story we're going to talk about today falls right in that category. I've told y'all in the past, guys get nicknames a lot of times just because of something they do, something they said, and a lot of times it's based off of where they're from. Hence, as guys I've met, a pile of Jerseys, I've met Phillies, I've met, I don't know how many New Yorks I've met. I mean, the list goes on and on. We have a white dude named Tennessee. Can you guess why they call him Tennessee? You guessed it, from Tennessee. Tennessee's a meth cook, brags. He will sit down and in a 30-minute conversation will have taught you how to make shake and bake. If you don't know what shake and bake is, go Google it. It's pretty much the act of making it inside of a Gatorade bottle with some different ingredients, right? That's all this dude wanted to talk about, was how to make this stuff. Every conversation he had was on how to make this stuff. When he initially came in, he kicked it with these other white dudes that were more or less, I'm not going to say go hard dudes. They were like the kind of the outcasts. They were the ones that weren't cool enough to kick it with the dudes that were cool. They weren't, They didn't come off strong enough to kick it with the dudes that were thorough. The black dudes weren't really messing with him because, well, they wouldn't stand up for themselves. That was Tennessee's circle. These are the guys he would smoke with, drink with, walk the yard with, play cards with, talk with. Solid little group of about 8 guys. Maybe 3 of them lived in our pod in 7 building at the time, right? In comes the boy. Eats a boy. If y'all don't know what a boy is derogatory. It is slang. It is a nickname for a guy that acts like a female while incarcerated. Sissy, gump, punk. The list goes on and on and on, right? This boy comes in. Tennessee's down on him. Locks in. I don't remember the boy's name, so we're just going to call him the boy. At the time, we had other boys that had been in the pod, but they were there when Tennessee came in. Most of them had a man. It's very common for a lot of these guys that engage in the type of stuff to have a man. This new boy comes in, and Tennessee, doesn't try to draw a lot of attention, but you can tell a lot about who gets down like that just by introducing a new boy into the pod. I used to watch. I'd see the new boy come in, and I would just sit back like I wasn't, watching the room and just kind of scan the room to see who was paying too much attention. You look over, great, we got a boy. You know what I mean? And you're going about your business. But to some dudes, they're talking and they're constantly looking over there. You see them going to sell, change clothes, come out smelling like cologne. What the hell come on, man, you like the boys? Tennessee liked the boys. Had never told anybody that. Told everybody about the meth. Didn't talk about the boys. Doesn't take long. Tennessee goes over and introduces himself to the boy. At the time, Tennessee has nobody in the cell with him, but we got a couple different cells in the pod that are completely open because, well, people go to the hole. Tennessee gets to talking to the boy and tells him, hey, you can move over where I'm at, man. Dudes are going to try you in here. Where you coming from? Oh, man, this is different here. Like, there's some crazy dudes here. Dudes are going to try you. He goes to the control booth, and no sooner than the boy and him got his stuff unpacked, they go ahead and tell him, yeah, well, you can move over there with that man if he's cool with it and go on about your business. That leaves open cells for us to put other people in. He moves in the cell with Tennessee. All the dudes that did kick it with him are now more or less not pressed for conversation. They're not really trying to talk to him. And one by one, and I've seen this, anybody locked up seen it, if you don't mess with the boys, you really can't, even though you're going to have to deal with them at times, you can't be all ha-ha and kiki with him or the boy, because that's going to attach you to it, and others are going to start to think he likes men. Over a period of a couple weeks, now it's established Tennessee is with this boy. It's not he was just being a nice guy, let him move in his cell. People had seen him kiss, hold hands, the boys cooking meals for him and getting everything ready for the shower, and they're like a couple. His crew falls back from him, one by one. It goes from 8 to 5 to 3. He's down to like one guy. Towards the end, he's talking to guys that mess with boys. All his homeboys have done peeled off on him, right? Well, now that everybody knows Tennessee likes the boys and the other boys know that Tennessee likes the boys, it's just like the streets. There's a lot of cheating going on when it comes to them relationships them guys call themselves having, right? If the opportunity presents itself, a lot of them guys will slide off with another man. Tennessee's circle is now consisting of guys that have boys. He's constantly talking to the boys. His boys got other boys over at the cell. Tennessee takes a liking to another boy in the pod. You see it. Every time Tennessee's boy goes to school, Tennessee would creep over there and be at the door talking to the boy, bringing him little things and splitting things with him and sharing things. And then shortly before his boy would come back, he'd slide back over to the cell and go sit at the benches with the other dudes and just act like the conversation and frolicking and flirting wasn't going on with the other boy, right? One day the boy goes off and goes to school. We all go to rec, and as I'm coming in from rec, they start popping cell doors. We coming in, hey, pop my cell door, let me in. It's a bunch of us that just came in, probably 25, 30 of us that just come through this front gate coming in from the rec yard. And as I'm coming through, I see the boy slide out of Tennessee's cell. This is not his boy. This is the other boy he'd been flirting with. I see the boy slide out of Tennessee's cell, right? He makes his way in over to the shower. Done something he shouldn't done been up in there, man, this is a terrible life. These are terrible stories to tell. He'd have been up in there in the cell with Tennessee bumping and grinding, been doing things he shouldn't be doing, right? Now, nobody else, I didn't know a lot about the boy that he had just messed with. I know that the dudes that messed with boys kind of avoided him. And I didn't know why. We'll get into it. Tennessee's boy catches wind of it. People go and tell him, hey, while you was gone and whatnot, he had the boy up in the cell. You hear them discuss it during lockdown. Not discuss it, more or less like having a domestic dispute, arguing. Then that day the boy comes out and goes over and talks to the other boy. We're thinking they're going to fight, right? But Tennessee's boy is small and frail, and I don't think there's anybody in the pod. If he wanted to, he could have beat up. So all he can really do is question the other boy. The boy says no. What's he going to do about it? If he keeps pushing the situation, he'll get beat up. Plus the boy's name, crazy name, Buffy the Bear. Used to have a runny ass nose. He talked to you and his nose would be running, right? Nah, I ain't talked to Tennessee. I don't mess with Tennessee like that. I ain't been nowhere near your cell. People, I do think I stopped by there and asking for a stamp, but don't be dragging me in the middle of what y'all got going on. Tennessee and the boy locked down. They argue. Throughout the day, the boys over here talking to that one sitting there. It's like a couple and they're mad at each other and they're off doing their own thing, right? Later that night, we lock down. Everything's fine. Following morning, we all get up. The boy doesn't go to school. Tennessee goes to rec. Boy comes out the cell, and the boy's got knots and bruises all over the side of his face. Me looking at it, the first thing I think is, damn, Tennessee done whooped up on the boy last night, man. They put hands all over him. Damn, he knotted him up. Like they was rumbling. Like there was scratch marks and just big knots and bruises all over this boy's face, right? The boy don't say nothing to nobody, goes over. He gets on the phone. He's on the phone a matter of not even maybe 2 minutes. Hangs the phone up, goes back inside his cell. And usually when the guards are alerted to something, it'll take them a little while for they show up. They don't usually come in right then and there. This is no bullshit, no exaggeration when I tell you, he got off that phone, went back inside that cell, and about 5 minutes later, they come in and scream lockdown. They start locking the yard down, bringing guys in off the yard. As soon as they come in to tell everybody to lock down, we all go to our cells, except for the exception of the guys that are on the yard. They go over to Tennessee's cell, bring the boy out. They've got these people with them. This lady and this man I've never seen, but they're throughout the prison at times, that are at the cell talking to him. And they walk him out and they've got their arm around him. And I'm like, the hell are they consoling him about? I'm thinking this is all behind the fight, right? They get him, get all his personal belongings out. They go out in the yard, find Tennessee, put him in handcuffs, take him to the sergeant's office, sit him in the sergeant's office. He doesn't have a clue. Why am I handcuffs? I ain't done nothing. Why y'all locking me up? Meanwhile, all the rest of us are locked in our cells, looking out the doors, looking over Tennessee's cell, right? They go in there and they pack all Tennessee stuff up. Now the cell is completely empty. We all think that Tennessee beat the boy up in the middle of the night. It's the only thing we can think. There's knots and bruises everywhere. There's signs of a physical altercation. Maybe Tennessee got tired of hearing the boy's mouth. He wouldn't leave the cheating situation alone. Tennessee, they'll put them Tennessee mitts on him. Just, bum, bum, just beat his ass in the cell. That's what we all think, right? Another dude that was in the hole at the time comes out the hole and comes to our pod and says to a bunch of dudes, and we know this dude, he's a troublemaker, stays going to the hole. He's like, yo, y'all know the dude Tennessee was in his pod? Yeah, he was in his pod. What's up with him? Yeah, and that man, y'all know that man's back in the hole. He's going to street court. Street court, man, he ain't even beat the boy like that bad, man. He looked beat up, but it was, she talking about beat up. That he got charged with assault, but that's not all he got charged with. What did he get charged with? The boy said he raped him in the middle of the night. What? Yeah, man, the boy said he took it against his will and that he beat him up real bad and then held him down and took it from him. Wow. Now we're all thinking Tennessee's on some grimy shit and got in there, got tired of the boy's mouth and put the 1-2s on him, held him down on the bed and violated him. Even though they had a relationship prior to that and had done relationship things prior to that, now it looks like Tennessee's done beat the boy up over this argument they had and held him down and violated him, right? The boy gets shipped. Meanwhile, Tennessee's now got to go to court in this county, Jared, Virginia, Emporia. He's got to go to court out here. So they're not going to ship him 4 hours away pending the outcome of this case until the outcome of the court case is over, right? I completely forget about Tennessee. I completely forget about the boy. Time passes. You're talking 7-8 months have gone by now, and we don't hear much of anything. Inmate.com is a bitch. Inmate.com is just the act of inmates gossiping amongst themselves. Hey, I heard this about to happen. Hey, I overheard the guard saying this. That's what we call inmate.com. It starts with one inmate hearing something, and it just spreads like wildfire throughout the entire prison until it eventually reaches your ears, and by then it's usually not even nowhere close to the truth, right? Well, we all started hearing that Tennessee was convicted on this sexual assault and this assault charge that took place, but that the boy wasn't pressing charges. The boy had tried to drop the whole ordeal. People told him, you're going to, come to court and tell us what happened. If not, then they try to scare you and say, we're going to hit you with this charge and this charge for, wasting our time. The boy refused to go to court against Tennessee. I don't know if they had been writing kites, three-way phone calls, if they got in touch with each other. I don't know what happened. Here in Virginia, this is a Commonwealth. Let me break this down to you for people that don't know anything about the Commonwealth. If there is a crime committed and the Commonwealth has enough power to get a conviction, you can drop the charges. But the moment you give a statement, a written statement, or a testimony to the detectives and all that, that's all logged in. You want to drop the charges? Too bad. We don't even need you anymore to go to court. We've got your statement. We can get a conviction just off of that. They ended up finding Tennessee guilty on the sexual assault, on the assault and battery, and sentenced that man to like 15 years in prison. 15 years in prison. He's now registered as a sex offender. He's now got, and he already had a pile of time he had to do on top of the 15 he just got added. It gets worse. We find out later on down the line when the other boys get to talking and, the whispering and gossiping gets out that somebody comes from an institution where that boy went to, and the boy had told other people that he got his man jammed up because he was mad. He lied about the whole situation. He went in the cell that morning after Tennessee left and went to the rec yard and commenced to punching himself all in the face. Just wham, 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 wham. Punching himself over and over. Scratched his face. They had relations the night prior. He went out there, got on the phone, picked the phone up, and above the phone is this number to call if you have been sexually violated. It's for this group called PREA, which is the Prison Rape Elimination Act. He went out there, got on the phone, called that number, it's like a toll-free number, and told them his name was such and such, he slept in cell such and such, and that he was violated and assaulted and feared for his life from inmate such and such. That day we seen them people come in. Those people that came in were at another part of the prison dealing with something else. Those were PREA people. They were outside people that deal with the Prison Rape Elimination Act. They came over there with the sergeants and lieutenants and hurried up and rushed him up out of there like he had been victimized. Took him, wherever they take you. I don't know if they took him outside to the detective's office or they did it right there in the prison. They did a rape kit on him. It came back positive because they had messed around the night before. Photographed all the pictures of his face. He gave a statement, signed the statement, and then got transferred to another prison. Then he told him, I'm not going to court. I don't want to pursue charges no more. The Commonwealth picked up the charges, pursued him, and convicted Tennessee on the charges. Yeah. One more thing real quick. The boy Buffy the Bear that nobody else would mess with, we come to find out later on why nobody else would mess with him. Buffy the Bear was HIV positive. He left a magazine laying out at the table one day, and it was like Living with AIDS Weekly or HIV Weekly, Men with AIDS Weekly, some magazine along those lines. You walk by a table and somebody leaves a magazine, a lot of dudes will pick them up. Look, see if they got any Cynic cologne strips in them or if there's any cool pictures in them or just to read it. Buffy the Bear sitting at the table. This is the guy that Tennessee cheated with. Gets up and walks off one time and somebody walks up and looks at the table. And there lays this magazine that he gets periodically for men that are dealing with HIV. So not only did he cheated on the boy with a man that had AIDS. The boy felt some type of way, assaulted himself, called the hotline number and had Tennessee arrested for rape, assault. Tennessee was ultimately convicted, sentenced to another 15 years, shipped off to a max custody. I'm pretty sure he either went to Red Onion Wallens Ridge, somewhere of that caliber, because they do not take lightly to things like that. And then within the year to come, we all come to find out the truth. The whole time we're thinking Tennessee did this. Beat this damn boy up, man, and just took it. Oh, then we come to find out it was more or less a lover's quarrel. The boy was scorned, was mad, felt played by Tennessee, and did the ultimate no-no. He went and lied on that man and got more time added on to his sentence. His next story, it took me a minute to recall dude's name. I was sitting here for a couple minutes in between breaks, and I'm like, the hell was the dude's name for the next video? Black. As soon as Black's name popped into my head, a whole pile of dudes named Black popped in my head. I started remembering dudes I haven't thought about in forever. But this Black stands out to me. Tall dude, and the crazy thing is, you would think with a name like Black that he would be extra black. Black was a tall dude with a medium complexion. He wasn't light skinned, but he was brown skinned. He wasn't a super, super black dude like most of the guys that I'd met named Black. I knew a dude named John Black that had little bumps all over his face, like acne that had never went away and just turned into little knots. He popped into my head, along with a bunch of other Blacks. But this Black in general was from Norfolk, Virginia, shooting into a vehicle. Black had talked to us in the past and talked about how he had beef out there. Dudes drove by, and he said that he told the courts he was scared they were going to shoot at him, so he shot at them. He didn't hit nobody, but he shot the car, shot the windows out, shot the car up. The cops come back. They lock Black up on a gun charge, shoot into a motor vehicle. He gets 7 years on it. Convicted felon. I think he pled out to like 4 years on the gun charge, 3 years shooting to the vehicle, right? When I met Black, I liked Black. Black was a funny-ass dude. If you've ever done time, you're going to meet all different type of characters, all walks of life, dudes that are just, some are grumpy, some are angry, some are funny style, some are funny. Black was a funny-ass dude. And talking to Black, man, he could take your worst day and make it better. But the problem with Black is Black played way too much. When I mean played too much, he's one of the dudes that would try to trip you while you're walking or walk up behind you and pull your pants down. He's like the class clown of the pod, the class clown of the penitentiary. Constantly playing. On several occasions, I had told Black, hey, we cool and all, but I don't play like that, man. That pushing stuff, trying to clip somebody's feet, like, I don't play like that, man. Play with somebody else. We laugh and joke and all, but you're not going to bid off me. Don't try to trip me. So we had an understanding. But if you did not straighten Black and you let him get away with it, he would clip your feet and make you trip, or your pants sag and he'd snatch them down. Black was that dude. Black could not keep a cellmate. His cellmates at first, it was all fun and games, but he did not know how to turn off the joking. It was always joke time with Black. It was like being in the cell with a fourth grader. Everything was funny. He laughed at things that weren't funny to the point that it would be obnoxious sometimes. He would laugh at his own jokes. He would say something, nobody else would laugh, and he would bust out laughing. You know those guys, right? He can't keep a cellmate. Ain't no convict. Nobody's been down a long time. Nobody facing time. No grown-ass man trying to play all day long. We got things going on in the real world. Family members passing away. Family members struggling with addiction, bills. We got kids, cheating girlfriends, cheating wives. Guys got real issues. Black seem to take all that with a grain of salt and just continue to smile, continue to joke, right? In the time Black was in my pod, Black was probably in the pod maybe a year and a half. I had seen him go through 6, 7 cellmates. If somebody lasted 2 months in the cell with Black, that was a long time. You would see them go up to the guards, hey man, you gotta move me. I'm end up messing dude up. He plays too much. He hides my stuff in the cell, makes me think somebody stole something from me. Always joking on me, he's bidding off me. You need to move me, find up messing Black's ass up, right? Black would also walk up and act like he wanted to slap box at times. Walk up, come on, and start putting his hands up, playing around. Dudes like, come on, man, nobody got time to play. Like I told you, after I straightened Black, he would just more or less, I bid off of him. He'd make me laugh, right? Black gets a new cellmate, but his new cellmate is a younger dude, man. This dude, maybe, 24, maybe 25. And Black was probably in his early 30s, if 30, if not a little bit older than 30. He gets this younger Black dude in the cell with him that plays just as much as black do. They run around the pod, throwing things at each other. They constantly doing stupid stuff on the rec yard. You can hear them in the cell laughing, joking, ha, kiki all night long. You look over their cell. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. We're trying to sleep. Their cell's bright. The lights on in there. They're laughing, playing all night long like two teenagers, right? This would take place for a long time. Him and Black would slap box in front of people right in the middle of the pod. And one of them would end up getting slapped and they wouldn't take it serious. They would just keep playing, right? Most of us, we're not doing that. Keep your hands to yourself. You slap me in my face in front of these people, we're going to have a problem, right? They would be cellmates for several months. I don't remember exactly how many months. I remember the year, 2009. And it's the middle of the night one night. Like I said, it's nothing to look over at their cell at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, all night long, and see their light on, and then they sleep through breakfast and sleep till noon. It's maybe 4 or 5-ish in the morning, and we all hear Black yelling. Black, they slept in cell 6, which is maybe at the most 15, 20 feet away from the control booth, where there's an officer in there all night long. An officer might be in there on, the computer or kick back, acting like they're working, taking a nap. All they pretty much do is look around and pop doors for the guards to come in and out of. That's their job while they're in the booth. We all get woken up to Black yelling out the door to the control booth. Hey, y'all need to get medical over here. Y'all need to get medical. Homeboy fell. He's yelling for medical. We all start to slowly wake up, make our ways to the door. Now, it's still dark in the pod. There's no lights on at this point, just a few little lights that keep a tiny bit of light in there. But Black's cell light is on, as I'm watching over Black's door, and I woke up out my sleep, my light sleep. I wake up to the littlest things. I start seeing other cell lights throughout the pod start flicking on. People are getting up to, what the hell is this dude screaming about? Y'all need to get medical over here. Y'all need to get medical. Y'all need to get medical. Guard comes in, looks in the cell, runs back out, gets on the radio. Bunch of guards come running in. Nurse comes running in. They bring this board in. It's like a gurney board. It's just a stiff-ass plastic board. It's not a stretcher on wheels or nothing. This is literally a plastic board. They pick him up, pick Black cellmate up, get him on his board, strap him, tote him, and run him up out of there. And they take Black out into the, what we call the vestibule or the front entranceway to talk to him. Black doesn't come back. Same thing like the last story. They pack up all this dude's stuff that is hurt, pack up all Black stuff. Black goes to the hole. Inmate.com once again. They come in there that, a file, like maybe 2-3 days later, and we'd already heard that the story we're hearing is that, Black and dude got into it and dude smashed his head on the floor, and that's what Black was locked up for. We start hearing through the guards, oh, y'all always got some larceny with y'all. Y'all want to do something, but then don't want to own up and be men when the stuff happens. He's referring to the situation with Black. That boy trying to talk about something. That man fell off the bed. The whole back of his head was cracked wide open. Ain't no way he fell off the bed. The man basically trying to make it seem like Black had sat on this dude and banged his head in the concrete floor in the cell, which to all of us, it didn't make sense because they were both so goofy and played so much. I just couldn't visualize, first of all, Black hurting somebody like that, like with his hands, with a gun maybe, but he wasn't the type to get physical and start attacking somebody. And I couldn't see where him and dude would even have any disagreements. They were both goofballs to the point that what could ever make two goofballs fight if they both think everything is funny, right? We come to find on, Black goes home. Black's got I think 4 months left, 5 months left at the point that all this happens. We find out that dude has cracked his whole entire skull, messed his brain up. They end up releasing, Black goes home, first of all, his sentence is up. He didn't get hit with no charges. Charges, I guess, are pending. They got an investigation going on. They're trying to figure out what happened in that cell that night. And Black is telling the guards, dude was on the top bunk, and I was reaching up there slapping at him, playing with him, and he was kicking at me. And when he did, I grabbed his leg, and I pulled him on. He come off the bunk and hit his head on the floor. They're not trying to hear it. Here's the crazy part. That is what happened. The guys in the cell next to him said, you always heard dude saying, yo, let go of my leg, man. You're going to make me fall off the bunk. Stop. So I'm assuming dude's up there holding on to the top bunk for dear life. Like, yo, get off my legs, man. Stop. You're going to make me fall. Black got carried away one time. The boy didn't get a good grip, pulled him, It's a drop. You're talking a 5.5-foot drop to straight concrete. Unforgiving. Smack your head on that floor if you want to. Night, go to sleep, curtains, lights out. Black's telling everybody, nah, we was horse playing. I grabbed his ankles, pulled him. He didn't grab the bed. When I pulled him, he comes straight off the bunk, cracked his skull on the ground, right? 4 months later, maybe 4 or 5 months later, Black ends up going home from whatever institution. I don't know if he stayed in the hole the whole time, if they shipped him, or what happened. I just know he left. We hear through the officers, they come in and I'm trying to think who, Lieutenant Jacobs, that was his name at the time, was our unit manager. He comes in and he says, look, the stuff y'all got going on here is leading to serious injuries. I don't care if it's fighting. I don't care if it's horse playing. Keep your hands to yourself. If somebody gets hurt, as a result of something one of y'all doing here, you will be facing a judge for it. That man that hit his head is, he's messed up. We find out that the man is released from prison. He's no longer the same. He's got to go home and be taken care of by his family members. His skull's cracked. His brain is injured. They've got to feed him. They've got to clean him. This went from being a healthy 24-year-old man that had a prison sentence to serve to having to be taken care of by his family because of his head injury he sustained, right? 2011, yeah, it was 2011, September 2011, right before we got our holiday packs. I see Black again. What has Black done, man? You done got out and got yourself jammed back up in trouble and sent back to prison. We find out them boys you shot at spun the block and waited all them years for you to get out, came back and lit your ass up. It's not what happened. The dude that hit his head on the floor died a couple years after he was released. Laid at home with the brain injury, family taking care of him, dealing with the whole hospice thing, and eventually passed away from the head injury from falling off that top bunk. They charged Black with involuntary manslaughter. That is when something you have done recklessly, indirectly, causes the loss of life of another individual. They were currently working a case against Black for the injury the man sustained that night in that cell. And I honestly think they expected the man to pass away. And that's why they wait to hit him with charges. At the moment that he passed away, they went to Black's house and arrested him for involuntary manslaughter. All stemming from him and that dude joking around and playing in that cell. He had finished up his prison sentence, went home, did his 7 years, or however much time, 85% he had to do on his 7 years, was living a normal life, had pretty much forgotten about everything that happened with him and that dude playing in that cell, only to have the police show up to his house, rearrest him. 9 years he got on that involuntary manslaughter. I believe, don't quote me on it, I want to say the maximum amount of time in Virginia for involuntary manslaughter is 10 years, I think. I know a couple different dudes that had that charge that had 10 years. But he was sentenced again. 9 years for the stupidity of playing around in the cell that night. Now, I know usually when we tell these stories or we go over these stories and things I remember from the past, when guys end up back in street court, it's usually along the lines of more violent things. I've talked on that in the past, on dudes, that have done stupid things, especially some of these gang members calling themselves robbing somebody that really ain't built like that does not care about telling on you, that will stand in court and say, he did it. Black didn't fall into the category of he did something violent. He didn't fall in the category of any of that. He was simply playing in that cell that night. His playing went too far. The negligence of what happened turned dude into a vegetable. Got him out of prison early. I don't know why that dude was in prison. I don't even know his name. I don't know how much time he had to do. I know that he was released because the prison's not going to just wipe your butt every day. They're not going to, feed you with a spoon every day. They're not going to change you and undress you unless you're like a lifer and you're geriatric. You get in those situations, you're going home. I told you all of a situation with Wildman one time, and Wildman's brother was killed on the streets. You can go back and catch these in the Wildman stories. Guys came to Wildman and said, the man that killed your brother, that's him right over there. And I don't quote me, I want to say this was at Augusta, Correctional Center. And at the time, they used to have what they called inmate versus guard day on the softball field, where the guards get all their best, or, just enough of them up there to play softball. They get their best up there. And it's like, it's our time to shine against these guards. You know what I mean? We out here playing softball. We get the bragging rights of, man, we whooped y'all out there in that softball field. Dudes pointed out the dude that they told Wildman had killed his brother, and Wildman took a baseball bat, went over there and beat the man's skull open. Only to find out after being charged, taken to court and sentenced again, that it was actually the wrong man. Wildman turned that man into a vegetable. Damn near killed him with that bat. Walked around the yard dragging the bat behind him. The warden come out there and told him, put the bat down. Put the bat down. He dropped the bat, walked over there with that, and they just directed him right over to the hole. He would go on to get more time. There's a lot I want y'all to draw from the stories today. First and foremost, they're all facts. Put all that on my son. Everything I just told y'all is facts. I'll never lie to y'all to kick it. The day I have to lie, I'll switch up and start doing something else in life. Stay out of these situations. I've told y'all some of the basics when it comes to being locked up and the things to avoid. Gambling, gangs, gays, gossiping. All these things can get you hurt real quick. The penitentiary is no playground. It's not a place you go to where you run around hee, ha, playing all day. Conduct yourself as a grown man. You'll have friends you can laugh with. You'll meet, let me rephrase that. You'll have associates, guys you meet, comrades along the way that you can click up with and joke here and there, might smile, crack a laugh with. But it's not nowhere you want to go playing all day. With Black's story, Black never hurt that dude. I never even known Black to get in a fight. I seen Black almost get into fights because he played too much and dudes was ready to whoop his ass. But with Black's story, it was just, it was sad to say the least. The two dudes were actually friends. They had gotten really close, really cool. They were very like-minded, both corny, both very much alike. Them playing resulted in the one dude losing his life. And then with Tennessee didn't do what they said he did. Tennessee picked up his extra 15 years on top of all the manufacturing, distributions, and possession charges he had that originally put him where he was at. But he broke the cardinal rules. Gays, gambling, gangs, gossiping, things you don't do. He put himself in a situation to where there had to be some type of consequences. I expected it to end in a fight, but with that boy being the size he was and him being frail and skinny body, there wasn't really much he could do to get back at Tennessee. So he did what he did. And then once he realized what he had done and tried to take it back, the Commonwealth wasn't having it. They jumped in, pursued the charges, and gave that man another 15 years. Gave him the label of sex offender that he now has to walk around with the rest of his life. These are crazy events that at times I don't like talking about a lot of this stuff. But it's always good to get it out in the open, to spread the awareness on the things that can and will happen and have happened in the penitentiary. And I do this in hopes that you can live that life, see it for what it is through my eyes, through my stories, and that you never have to come out here and tell anybody any stories in any way, shape, or form similar. We've all got a story. We've all been through bad things. We've all dealt with things that made us uncomfortable or not feel good. You can limit a whole lot of them things by not ending up locked up. Nothing good comes from being locked up. I can say that my time in prison, the reflection, the time to grow, made me a better person. But I saw so much bad stuff along the way. So much bad stuff to the point that I am a better person. But I'll never forget what I've been through, what I've seen, things I've done. It's altogether bad, man. Give me a second to clear something up real quick before we get out of here, because I got to get back to work. Everybody had said with the puppy Nico I got that he was way too young to be taken away from his mother. I agree. Part of the reason we took Nico at such a young age was because of his living conditions. The place we picked him up from was like some wrong turn, the hills have eyes type environment. He was in a cage with the mama dog and some other puppies in the back bedroom of this dirty, dirty house with these people that did not look like they took very good care of themselves, much less the animals. We didn't have a problem with bottle feeding Nico. Nico is now going on, I think, 8 weeks. Eats his food, is rambunctious. Check him out. It's my dude. Beautiful little dog. Doing great. So I don't want anybody to think that we were selfish or anything like that. No. We took the dog out of a bad situation, nursed him, gave him a good home, and he is doing great. I do have an update on Jacob Aquino's parole decision, and I've got a video coming later tonight with that. If I don't drop it tonight, I'll drop it tomorrow. I've just got to get it edited. But anyways, these jails, detention centers, these prisons, these facilities, they're all just crazier worlds inside of a already crazy world we live in. And as always, y'all know what I'm doing. Just trying to keep y'all entertained. Are you not entertained? And like always, this is Jay Williams, Let's Live Life. And to all my real ones, and there are some real ones watching, because y'all still watching me. Man, y'all know how we do. Salute. Do not go to prison, mess with them boys, or think you're going to run around playing all day. It always ends bad.